Snapping, handling, and passing the ball. And if you can't hear me, just let me know. All right, section one is before the snap. So everything we're going to be talking about here in section one, um, there's two categories of fouls that we're going to be discussing in Rule 7: dead ball fouls, live ball fouls. And basically, and when we say dead ball, we basically means that uh, prior to the snap that we're not going to allow the play to happen, right? So a dead ball foul, we're going to kill it. We're not going to let the play start or proceed. Even though the ball is snapped, we're going to kill the play. A live ball foul prior to the snap or at the snap means that we're not going to kill it. We're going to let the play happen. They're going to have the play go through its whole development, and at the end of the play, then we'll deal with the foul. Okay. So everything in what we're talking about right now in section one are dead ball fouls, or we call pre-snap infractions. Okay, so I when I was doing some research, I thought this was very interesting. It says the center of attention. It says without a snapper, no scrimmage play starts legally. I also read something today that says the snapper is the quarterback of the offensive line. I thought that was kind of neat. The snapper is the quarterback of the offensive line because hey, it all starts with the snapper. In the football prep football 22 page 30, it says the ball becomes live in two ways: a free kick or a legal snap. We often hear fans and coaches use the term hike the ball. That likely derives from a verbal signal used years ago indicating it was time for the ball to be snapped. But from a rule standpoint, the ball is snapped, not hiked, and the player who performs that duty is the snapper. So in Rule 724, a scrimmage down must start with a legal snap. Uh, Again, remember we integrate Rule 2 throughout the course. We didn't do a whole isolated training on Rule 2, so we just insulate. So this is another definition in Rule 2. A snapper is the player who is facing his opponent's goal line when his shoulders approximately parallel thereto, and who snaps the ball. Right, good to go. And also Rule 241, a snap is a legal act of passing or handing the ball backwards from its position on the ground. So the snapper is literally passing or handing the ball backwards. All right. So again, Rule 242, and talk about what the movement of a snap is. In a snap, the movement must be quickly and continuously backwards motion, immediate leave the hands of the snapper, must touch a back or the ground before a lineman. Now, I want you to remember this because when we look at some videos here in a minute, that is very important. So, in other words, if there is a snap and if it's not quick and continuously backward motion, if it's not immediate leaving the hands of the snapper, or if it's not touching the back or the ground before a lineman, then it's a dead ball foul, okay, for an illegal snap or a snap infraction, okay. So just remember this because when we watch some videos, we're gonna bring this back up. All right, and the National Football Rules rating study guide. It says, notice the snap need not be between the snapper's legs, as is sometimes done, for example, in a swinging gate formation. Regardless of the offensive team formation, the snap must be quick, continuous, uh, and backward from its position on the ground, immediately leaving the hands of the snapper and touching it back or the ground before touching a team A lineman. So there's no rule saying the snap has to be between the legs. So the snap can be from the side. It can go from his side or whatever. It does not have to be between the legs. But most snaps you see are between the legs. All right. So here, the snapper may lift the ball for lateral rotation, but may not rotate the ball from end or end to end, or change the location, or fail to keep the long axis of the ball at the right angle of the line of scrimmage. So basically, the rule said that a snapper can lift the football. All right, so he can lift it and he can rotate it laterally. Okay, but he can't rotate it from end to end. And basically, what that means is, so basically, on this football, we have NCAA on the left side, might be your right side. He can't rotate it like this. All right, and then change the lettering direction. All right, or he can't rotate it like this. All right, so he can laterally move it and he can lift it. Now, the rule doesn't say how far he can lift it. There's some officials that say he can lift it a little bit, like you see on the picture here, or what if he lifted and stand up and bring it back down? That's completely up on your philosophy. It just says he can lift it for lateral rotation. Now, a lot of times the umpire will ask the snapper, do you want the laces to the right, to the left, in the middle, or down? And a lot of time, if you ask the snapper how he wants the ball placed on the ground on the laces, it'll prevent a lot of the movement of lateral rotation of the ball, because you're going to put the ball like the snapper wants it. And it also says fail to keep the long axis of the ball right angle to the line of scrimmage. So basically, if the ball is like this, if a snapper moves it like this, that's supposed to be a dead ball illegal snap infraction. Now, I'm going to tell you right now, I'm going to watch a video. A lot of times this is not called, even in college. I remember I was doing a game. I was working the chains at an Outback Bowl game in Tampa, and it was a college game, and the snapper was literally turning the ball parallel to the line of scrimmage. And I'm like, what? And no one moved. No one did anything. And if you watch this video right here, you see the snapper just move the ball parallel. Watch again. And the umpire didn't say anything. The referee didn't say anything. Everybody was quiet. However, this is literally a dead ball foul. Right. But for some reason, as officials, we determine, and I need to go back because I don't think I hit volume on here. So give me a minute. Let me go back. All right. Somebody is not muted.
I got a question. Okay, we can ask questions right now?
Nope. All right. So let me go back. Let me hit share sound. I keep forgetting to do that sometimes. I apologize. All right. So no, you can ask questions later. You can write it in the box, but if you ask questions, we'll never get done. I got a lot of material to cover today. But you see it in youth, and a lot of time we do allow the youth to get away with it. And I don't know, how your philosophy is. A lot of people say it's a tedious foul. They don't call it, but it is a foul, and you need to know it. So if you decide to call it or not, that's completely up to you and your crew. But yet it is a dead ball foul. All right. So following the ready for play, and after touching the ball, the snapper shall not. So we look at some snapper restrictions here. Shall not remove both hands from the ball. So in other words, if the snapper goes down and with both hands on the football, they can take one hand off as long as they don't simulate a snap. All right. Or they can just keep both hands on the ball. All right. But they can't remove both hands from the football once they put their hands on it. Now, in youth, you're going to see them touch it, get back up. Again, it's age-based officiating. And when they get down to youth, we give them a little bit more latitude than we give our older counterparts. All right. Make any movement that simulates a snap. So if he has the ball like this and he goes like really fast, right? That could be interpret it as a false start. All right, failed to clearly pause before the snap. So he can't go down, get that boom real fast. So he has to, it's a shift. When the snapper touches the ball, he's shifting into that position. So he has to clearly be paused for at least 1 second. Right. And then following adjustment, lift, move the ball, other than a legal snap. So after he lifts it and adjusts it, and once he sets it back into place, that's it. He can't lift it again and readjust it. His adjustment is over. Once he adjusts, that's it. He get one adjustment, and it's time. The only time next time that ball is going to move is a legal snap, unless they call a timeout or anything like that. All right. So an illegal snap or snap infraction caused the ball to remain dead. Again, so in this picture, what you see, remember the snap has to be continuously motioning backwards. You'll see some snappers will go up and then snap it. So the moment the snapper goes up, it's a dead ball illegal snap infraction. All right. So you can't go up and then back. You can just go back. But if you go up and then snap it, we have a snap infraction. All right. So we're gonna look at a couple of videos here. This is bad mechanics, and I'm gonna tell you why it's bad mechanics. Because again, we're as officials, mechanics is everything. It's part of your signature of being a well-trained official to just out there trying to pretending you're an official. Okay, but on this video here, let me see. Let me watch the snapper. Let me get it back here. All right, you see, I don't know if y'all seen it, but again, he double. Oh no, I didn't. Hold on, sorry. He double pumped the ball. All right, so watch again. All right, so that's a dead ball foul. Now, what you don't see from our officials, I don't see. There's no flag. No one threw a flag. I guess they was watching it, decided not to throw a flag. And so you gotta make sure that, and it should be at least 3 flags on this play. Okay, it should be a flag from the wing officials as well as the umpire if the referees see it. But there's nothing wrong with having multiple flags out there. So here, there's the same thing. Watch the snapper, but watch the officials as well. And that's, yeah. So you see the flag comes up, and they come in, right? And they're stopping the clock, they're coming in, they're stopping the play. Flag, why is it doing that? Okay. So I recorded this. But yeah, so when there's and what the snapper did was this, and then it move. All right. So if you see that, this and then move, again, that's not a continuous motion, and then that's a dead ball foul. There should be a whistle, a flag, and stop clock. All right, in that order: whistle, flag, stop clock. Come in, kill the play, and then we assess the penalty for the dead ball foul. All right. So here go one that the game officials failed to stop the play. This is on YouTube. Let's see if you can see it. So the snapper, let's go back again. I thought it was on replay. Get out of there. Oh, I hate when it does that. Give me a second. Sorry. So the snapper does not take. What happens here, if you see here, the snapper did not release the ball. And so then the player came around and he's taking the ball out of the snapper's hand. Right? That's a dead ball foul. And again, this is where we get in trouble, right? Well, when I say trouble, this is when we get coaches all mad at us, right? Because we look that they got to be continuously, it must leave the snapper's hand immediately, and it must touch a bike or the ground before it touch a lineman and a lineman, right? So what happens is some coach comes across this on YouTube and say, I like that trick play. I'm going to add that to our arsenal. And they're going to work on it all entire week, right? And then they're going to come out there to one of you who've been trained. And they're going to tell you, yeah, we're going to run this play where the snapper going to fake snap it and hold on to it. And then another player going to come grab it and then run with it. And you're going to say, nah, coach, you can't do that. They be like, why can't I do that? I've seen it on YouTube or I've seen it somewhere else. And you're like, yeah, coach, I'm sure you have, but that doesn't make it right. And again, like I said before, the reason why we're doing this course to begin with, there's a lot of bad information out there. And if you're looking at social media to learn the rules, then that's a bad place to start. So on this play here, yeah, the snapper held onto the ball. And then the player came right here, number 7, grabbed it from under him and then ran with it. All right. So that is illegal. It's a dead ball foul. So this should have been a whistle. The whistle should have blown right away. The play should have been killed. It should not have been able to proceed. All right. So let's talk about the neutral zone. The neutral zone for a scrimmage down is as wide as the length of the football. So again, my prop, right, from length to length is the neutral zone on a scrimmage play, right? So on a kickoff, we know it's 10 yards, but for a scrimmage play, it's only the length of the football. And again, if you think about it, and that's why you shouldn't turn the ball parallel, because when you turn the ball parallel, you actually the length of the neutral zone is from tip to tip, and when you turn it sideways, what happens to the neutral zone, right? All right. So a snapper may be over the ball, but his feet must be behind the neutral zone, and no part of his person other than his hand on the ball may be beyond the foremost point of the ball. So if you see the snapper here, his feet behind, and I mean, I think it'd be kind of hard for somebody to stand up over the ball like that. Maybe, but so this is a good look for the snapper. His head is going to be in the neutral zone. Obviously, his hand's going to be in the neutral zone. Obviously, and that's fine. But he really can't be past the neutral zone. So his head can't tilt over the ball, but it can be above the ball. All right. No player other than a snapper shall encroach on the neutral zone after the ready for play by touching the ball, an opponent, or being in the neutral zone to give defensive signals. Now, I don't know if you know this, but there's actually 2 different type of encroachment fouls. You got the one prior to the snapper putting his hands on the ball, and then encroachment when the player puts his hands on the ball. All right. So this is a ready for play, and the snapper has not put his hand on the ball yet. So if somebody like touched the ball, it's actually an encroachment foul, touch an opponent, or if the defense is in there giving defensive signals, that's an encroachment foul. So as officials, preventive officiating, we tell, hey man, back off the neutral zone before you start turning around, giving your signals, the linebacker, whatever. Okay. So this is prior to the referee. Now, if you notice the player to the right of the snapper, he's in the neutral zone. However, that's not encroachment. It don't become encroachment until his hands touch the ball. So the other encroachment here is following the ready for play and the snapper has placed his hands on the ball. Encroachment occurs any other player breaks the plane of the neutral zone, a defensive player makes contact with the ball prior to the end of the snap, or a defensive player makes contact with the hands or arm of the snapper prior to the snapper releasing the ball. Now, this used to be legal, it's not legal anymore. So, in other words, if a defensive player trying to time the snap and tries to knock the ball out of the snapper's hand, is encroachment. Okay, so he cannot knock the ball out of his hand, or as he's snapping the ball, jump in between his legs and then try to hit the ball. Right? If that happens, we kill the play immediately. It's a dead ball foul and encroachment. All right. So here go another play. Let me change the share screen.
The line judge flags the wide receiver for encroachment. By rule, this is a correct call. However, game-interrupting fouls such as this can often be prevented by helping players line up properly if the snap is not imminent.
All right.
A long-standing...
So what we see here is let's go back here. Let me change my share screen again. All right. So what we see is the offensive player coming out. He's looking, but the center is touching the snapper is touching the ball, and he's in the neutral zone. So yes, by rule, the player is encroaching into the neutral zone, and the line official, although correct, but like the announcer said, if he would have talked to him, but the thing about it is, if you look at the next slide, he moved back and then looked at the referee to make sure he's okay. So he walked out, he stepped in the neutral zone, but then he stepped back, looked over, and by that time, the line judge is already throwing the flag. So again, is that a cool thing, not cool thing? Is it our business? Should we warn them? Should we not warn them? How should we handle that? Now, in the Officials Youth Sports Football 2004 article, and yes, I am a hoarder when it gets down to my articles. I got it right here. And on page 5, under talking, the talk make your job easier, it talks about aligning the wideout, and it says this: under some circumstances, the official can be helpful. For example, many players will line up, look at the official, and say, "Am I okay?" Most of the time, they're asking if they're on the line, but many players don't understand the distinction between a back and a lineman. The youngsters may well be asking if he's lined up in the neutral zone. If you say he's okay, tell him that he's not in the neutral zone, but then throw the flag for an ineligible downfield, you will get static from the sideline. To prevent possible miscommunication, when a player asks about his position, tell him something like, "You're on the line," or "You're off the line." That puts the onus where it belongs, on the player, to know where he's supposed to be. However, if a player is over the line, tell him so and give him a chance to move back before you flag him. So obviously that official didn't have this article, but that's how it makes a difference. Hey, preventive officiating. Normally when I got somebody coming out, I put my leg out. Hey, this is the line of scrimmage right here. Because for some reason, receivers come out and think if the ball is, like, say, on the 20, they think their toe's supposed to be on the 20, but they're actually in the neutral zone. They got to back up 11 and a half inches. But the thing is, if we just be proactive and stick our foot out there, hey, this is the neutral zone. That's where you want to be at. That helps out a lot. So, right in youth football, like look at this picture right here. everybody's on the right side. We got a clear line, which is good, but that's not what we see all the time. Sometimes we see this, right? We see the young tackle or guard way past the neutral zone on the other side of the defensive line of scrimmage. All right. So, this is a great opportunity. Now you can start yelling, back up, back up, back up, or you can take the opportunity to let the play go and then let the referee know let number 11 know he needs to back up a little bit because he's way over the ball. Now we know the coaches, if it's especially the opposite side of the coach, if it's the Eagles, they're going to be yelling and screaming about encroachment, and they're going to want a flag. You don't have to throw the flag. It is not. Don't feel that you have to throw a flag on every single thing you see, even though it's a technical foul. All right. Rule 119 says it is our discretion to decide if we're going to see something and throw it or not. So remember, age-based officiating, the rule book was not written for anybody but varsity level officials. It was not written for 8-year-old, 9-year-old, 10-year-old who's still learning the game. So I'm just showing you, hey, this is what we normally see in youth football. Now, again, the older counterparts, you might be a little bit more tight on them, but just understand this is pretty much what you're going to see when you do youth football. So after the ready for play and before the snap begins, no false start shall be made by any A player. It is a false start if A shifts or feint charge simulates an action of the snap. Any act clearly intended to cause B to encroach, or any A player on his line between the snapper and the player on the end of the line, after having placed his hands on or near the ground, moves his hands or make any quick movements. So I'm gonna give you a little tidbit of secret. That does not apply to the snapper. Okay, it applies to the player between the snapper and the player on the end of the line. So what I mean by that, if the snapper didn't touch the ball, but the snapper put his hands on the ground, he can still lift his hands off the ground. It's not a foul. If he touched the ball and lift his hand, it's a foul. But if he touched the ground and lift his hand, it's not a foul. So a little tad bit read between the lines there. All right. If a false start caused B to encroach on the false start is penalized. I gotta get it there. Give me a second.
Non-restricted players are allowed to shift and reset before the snap. This player, despite his efforts to look nonchalant, appears to have missed the snap count. Would you let this go or flag it as a false start?
Now, there are a lot of people who think that if the if a bike moves, it can't be false start. However, remember, if a shift or feint charge simulates the action of a snap, it's a false start. So by his movements, either he's trying to draw defense off or he just forgot what he was doing. But if you feel that simulates a snap, then it's a false start. All right. So if he moves like that, a really abrupt motion, and then you see everybody try to play it off and he goes back to his position. I wish they would show if you're going to move that way once the ball is snapped. But again, if a back moves or shifts and it looks like it's a snap, it's a false start. So now, to make things even, in regards to between offense and defense, if offense can't do anything to cause defense to encroach, Then defense, they, with the NFHS, they say there's their goal to balance it out. And so it used to be a 15-yard penalty for the defense to do anything that, like hike, whatever stuff they did. Simple, but they actually put in their acts as well. So if defense does anything stumping or make any movements trying to get the offense to false start, that is a foul too. That's a dead ball foul as well. So, and again, the rating study guide, it says the defense players are not permitted to deliberately feint a charge to provoke Team A linemen into moving. Team B players are prohibited from making quick non-football related movements in an obvious attempt to draw an offensive player into committing a foul. Examples of violations include stumping of the foot, clapping the hands, quick standing up and are moving into a 3-point or 4-point stance, or vice versa. Quickly bobbing their heads or repeatedly or abruptly flexing their legs or arms. So defense just can't get away with all of that. We know offense, they have enough restrictions as it is. And so the rules are balanced out. So offense, I can't get you to encroach. Defense, you can't get me to false start. All right. So everything we talked about and discussed right there are what we call pre-snap infractions, which are dead ball fouls. All right. A dead ball is a foul which occurs in the time intervals at a down as ended, after, or before the next down is snapped. So in other words, as soon as the play is over, any foul that happens prior to that is a dead ball foul and typically carries a 15-yard penalty. But after the ready for play, after the ball is spotted, unless there's a personal foul or unsportsmanlike conduct, most of those dead ball fouls are 5-yard penalties. That's prior to the snap. So pre-snap infractions. So what are they? A recap: snap infractions, illegal snap, hesitating the ball, moving the ball, taking your hands off the ball, turn the ball parallel, encroachment. Again, any team can encroach. False start, which basically refers to Team A. Disconcerting acts by Team B. So those are typically the dead ball fouls that we're paying attention to when we watch every doing a game. Now, prevent the play from starting. This is in Prep Football 2019. Prevent the play from starting for a dead ball foul. Your protocol for pre-snap infraction should be blow the whistle, throw your flag high into the air, and give the stop clock signal twice. It's a good habit to give a signal even if the clock isn't running. So basically, as we saw in one of the videos, you blow the whistle, throw the flag, and stop the clock, come in, and is a false start, an encroachment, snap infraction, disconcerting act, whatever it is, right? So let's get into section 2. Boom, boom, moving right along. All right, so players on each side and next to the snapper may lock legs with the snapper, but any other A lineman must have each foot outside the closest foot of the player next to him at the snap. A's players may stand, crouch, or kneel. I was looking for pictures of legs interlocking, and I could not find one, but it was close enough, right? So now we're in section 2. These are all what we call live ball fouls. So in other words, anything we discussed in section 2 is if we see an infraction, we don't kill the play. We allow the snap to happen, because basically what it's saying is that any foul that happens now can be corrected before the snap. All right. So with interlocking legs, the only ones that interlock legs prior to the snap are the guards, or anybody who's next to the snapper can lock legs. Now, once the ball is snapped, if they want to close in and lock legs, then that's fine. But prior to the snap, the only ones that can lock legs are the adjacent to the snapper. Okay. All right. So let's talk about player formations and numbering requirements include no no more than 4 A players may be backs, and only 1 A back may penetrate the vertical plane through the waistline of the nearest teammate. At the snap, at least 5 A players on their line of scrimmage must be numbered 50 through 79. Players of the same team should not participate during the down while wearing identical numbers. And B players may be anywhere on and behind their line of scrimmage. They're free. So let's look at all of those separately. All right. So the formation. All right. There can be no more than 4 players in the backfield. All right. So here we see 5 players in the backfield. That is an illegal formation. However, it's only a foul after the ball is snapped. It's a live ball foul. Because if let's say number 5 here, if number 5 stepped up to the line on a shift, then he's in correct position. It's no longer a foul. If 1 stepped up to the line, it's no longer a foul, or 2 or 4. So wing officials, as you counting your defense and you're looking at your lines, there's so much we have to do as wing officials. As you see, I got 5 in the backfield. You're punching them back. The other official punching back. We see it. However, if anything if another shift happened and one of those backs go to the line of scrimmage and set up on the line of scrimmage, then it's no longer a foul. All right, it's only a foul once the ball is snapped. All right, so no more than 4 A players may be backs, and only 1 back may penetrate the vertical plane through the waistline of the nearest teammate. So if you see this, red is the offense, and you see they got a little trick. It's not really a fumblerooski because they don't put the ball on the ground, but it is a trick handoff. Okay, the players are all tight. Honestly, this is a foul for illegal formation. Right? They cannot be that close. Only the snapper can break the waistline of the teammate in front of them. Now, again, this is one of them things that a lot of officials don't like to call. Again, just like the ball turning, where does it end? Where do we say, okay, this is a foul, or we say, we let it go, it's trivial. All right. Now it's crazy because in Rule 7, Section 2, it actually says it twice. It said it in 2.5, and it also said it here as well. Of the players of A who are not on their line of scrimmage, on the line at the snap, only 1 may penetrate the vertical plane through the waistline of the nearest teammate who is on his line. I didn't repeat. I didn't just been redundant with it. I mean, it literally says it twice in the Section 2. So it says it twice. It says he must have his hands in position to receive the ball if he's at this if it is a snap between the snapper's legs, but he's not required to receive the snap. So in other words, he could have his hands there and the ball could be snapped past him to a back behind him. But it's only 1 player can be that close to the line of scrimmage. So right here, B is what we call is in a no man's or a legal position. Okay, so to be on the line of scrimmage, you have to break the waistline of the snapper. If you see here, number 88 is breaking the waistline of his teammates, but not breaking the waistline of his snapper. So he's in what we call in an illegal position, a no man's land at the snap, and this is a foul for illegal formation. Now, again, a lot of officials don't call it. A lot of officials let it go. In youth, you'll see this a lot, especially when they run a really heavy play to the right or left. You'll see like the backs, like number 3, when they squat down, number 3 will be like literally almost like the quarterback behind that lineman, and then they'll snap the ball and they'll run that way. And or you see sometimes they'll actually put their hands on the hips of the lineman. Again, that is a legal formation. And a lot of time it is my pet peeve. I do tell them to move back. I remember I did a tournament and I had a youth coach that was doing it. When I mentioned it to him, he said, "Yeah, I know, I change it, but if you didn't say nothing, I will leave it." So he knows some officials going to say something, some officials not, and if he can get away with it, he's going to get away with it. But however, if you're going to be a back, you have to be in legal position as a back. All right. So any other player must be in a legal position as a back. So what's the rule? A back is any A player who has no part of his body breaking the plane of an imaginary line drawn parallel to the line of scrimmage through the waistline of the nearest teammate who is legally on the line, except for the player under the snapper, who is also considered a back. So if you notice, number 88, he's not breaking that imaginary line anymore. He's backed up a little bit more, and he's in a great position. Now, for the sake of being balanced, let's talk about the blade of grass principle. All right. In Prep Football 2022, it says, keep in mind the blade of grass principle. If if lines drawn through the shoulders of two end players and illustrated as separate, even by a blade of grass, consider one on the line and the other off. Regard them as being where they're supposed to be. So this is like the balance, right? So if they might not be like really, really in the back, but if you look and you can see a blade of grass, and you can separate by a tiny bit, then consider them off the line. All right. But there are strategies that the offensive line, I think we're going to see a video on it, that they will step back, especially on a kick formation, to give themselves some room for the defense, which is giving them an unfair advantage. So you have to call that. But, again, the blade of grass principle, if he's back and he looks like he's trying to be a back, give him the benefit of the doubt. But the ones we're really talking about, the ones they like really up there on the line, like they're the second quarterback. All right. All right. So a lineman is any player who facing his opponent's goal line with the line of his shoulders approximately parallel thereto, and with his head or foot breaking the imaginary plane to the parallel to the line of scrimmage through the waist of the snapper when the ball is snapped. All right. So he's on the line now because he's breaking the line of the snapper. If he came back a little bit and he was breaking the line of his teammates, then he'll be in a no man's land, or if he's completely back again. All right. So we'll look at play one.
The line judge is indicating that the receiver closest to him is off the line of scrimmage. That leaves Team A with 5 players in the backfield. If Team A does not move one player up to the line before the snap, it should result in a foul for illegal formation.
But if you watched the play, you saw there was no flags thrown. So obviously it probably was missed, and that happens. Even high school officials and other officials, we miss things. But yeah, if you had 5 in the backfield, it should have been flagged. And it should have been a flag by the linesman and the line judge, right? The reason why we punch back new officials, if you're a wing official and the player the closest to you, the wideout, if he's off the line of scrimmage, we punch him back. And the reason why we do that is we're communicating with our other wing official. They say, hey, look, he's off the line. So let's make sure we count our backfield, players in the backfield, to make sure that we have no more than 4 in the backfield, right? If it's more than 4 in the backfield, it's a foul. But let's just make sure that we have no more than 4. And that's why he punched back. If he's on the line, then that means the player next. If I'm not punching back, that means the player next to me is on the line of scrimmage, and we count the slots and the backs in an I formation or a wing formation, whatever. All right. Number 9. Let's go. Okay.
This formation is clearly illegal, as none of the linemen has his head or foot breaking an imaginary plane drawn parallel to the line of scrimmage through the waist of the snapper.
Now, a lot of times you will see this happens on a scrimmage kick formation, right? Because they'll step back, and so they can give them a little bit more advantage when the defense try to come in. So that gives the offense an advantage. So we have to catch that. And then you might just see this in high school. You probably won't see it in youth as much. But if they're back up and they're not breaking the waistline of the snapper, at least 5 players are, and then there's no more than 4 in the backfield, then we have an illegal formation.
If Team R accepts the 5-yard penalty, it may be enforced from the previous spot or from the dead ball spot if Team R is next to snap the ball.
And again, we do not see proper mechanics. No one is throwing the flag, and the wing official is not even throwing a beanbag when the ball is caught. So again, this is why it's so important to be properly trained, because a lot of times you're going to see things that people are just not doing proper mechanics, which is a very big pet peeve of mine. All right. So, and here Rule 7.5b talking about there have to be at least 5 players on the line of scrimmage, numbered 50 through 79. So back in the day, they had to be what? You gotta have 7 on the line, and then and then there'd be 10 on the field. There'd be one player didn't come in, so there'd be 4 in the backfield. There'd be 6 on the line of scrimmage, and now we throwing an illegal formation on them because they put it be 7 on the line. The problem with that is that who is it benefiting? Is it a disadvantage that they only got 10 on the field, or an advantage? And so a lot of times they don't have 10 on the field going against 11 and run a great play or score a touchdown, and we're calling it back because then they have 7 on the line. So with the National Federation of High School, they dumbing it down and said, listen, you only got to have 5 on the line of scrimmage and no more than 4 in the backfield. But the 5 on the line have to be between 50 and 79. So there you go. So you have to worry about counting the offensive line anymore, because as long as you have 5, you're good. All right. At the snap, at least 5 A players on their line of scrimmage must be 50 through 79. So let's look at some exceptions to this. So in a scrimmage kick formation, and there actually are 2 different scrimmage kick formations. And as I was preparing this, I realized I even messed up on this in my thinking. And I'm going to clarify it today. So you got to have 5 on the line, 50 through 79. However, the exception is in a scrimmage kick formation on first, second, and third down. On a scrimmage kick formation, the snapper does not have to be, he's exempt from being 50 through 79, but he has to be between players, and it has to be on first, second, and third down. However, and that's a legal numbering. However, in this scrimmage formation, it is illegal. So this is what happened. If you actually look at the rule, it says the exception is for 214 2A. So in the definitions, it gives you 2 scrimmage kick formations, right? Let's go back here. It gives you at least 7 yards, 1 player, and a kicker. And then it also gives you the 10-yard scrimmage formation. So in Rule 214 2A, it says a player is in position with a knee on the ground 7 yards or more behind the line of scrimmage, in position to be a holder, and receive the long snap with another player 3 yards and less behind, or less behind the player in position to attempt a place kick. So under the number exception for the snapper on first and second and third down, it's only apply to a 70 the place kick formation, the scrimmage kick formation, not the punt kick scrimmage formation. So if a player comes in to be a snapper and he's not numbered 50 to 79 in this formation, is a live ball foul for illegal formation. Now, on fourth down try, under exception 2, any of the 5 players are exempt. So you can bring in 5 different numbers, and the number exception from 50 to 79. Now they're all ineligible. They all have to be between 2 outside. They can't be at the end of either of the formation. They have to be interior linemen, but they don't have to be numbered 50 to 79. And that is for a punt or for a scrimmage kick. Okay. But for first, second, and third down, the number exception only applies to the snapper, and that's only for a place kick formation, for a field goal or something like that, all right, or a try. I mean, well, for field goal from on first, second, and third down. So the number exception is only applied to that, but on fourth down or a try, it can be any. The number exception does not apply for either. All right, so players of the same team shall not participate during the same down while wearing identical numbers. These are actually a game. This team got hit 257s. They got a foul for a illegal formation, and then you got 2 players. So it happens, especially you see a lot of youth players having the same numbers. We just got to make sure they're not in the game at the same time. All right. So B players may be anywhere on the line, on or behind their line of scrimmage. It does not matter when it comes to them. All right. So any A player on his line of scrimmage may not advance a planned loose ball in the vicinity of the snapper. So remember, in an illegal snap, it says that it got to be quick and continuous. It got to leave the snapper's hand immediately, and it has to touch a back or the ground before it touch a lineman, right? So if when on the Fumblerooski was legal, you could do that, right? If it touched the quarterback, he's a back, and if it touched the ground, then a lineman be able to touch it, right? However, they changed that to say that any lineman in the vicinity of the snapper cannot grab the ball. So let's look at a couple of Fumblerooskis. I say this is actually a dead ball snap infraction, and I will show you why. Let's look at this.
Going to be third down, and the line that the Air Force needs to make is the 43 of San Diego. They have Fumblerooski to the near side and running alone. At the 5 is Lindsey, the right guard.
Well, they set this one up perfect. Ron Jarvis Baker rolled to the right. 76, Jim Ramsey, the offensive right guard. Watch the right guard.
So remember, the ball has to leave the hands of the snapper immediately. The snapper is still holding on to the ball. So actually, this will be a dead ball snap infraction because the snapper has not released the ball. He lays the ball down.
Jim Ramsey picks it up.
He picks it up.
San Diego State's right there, but they never expected the 76, 6'4", 280-pound senior to carry the ball.
So
Armando Stallings.
that is now a live ball foul, and it's a live ball. Let's say he ran it, he got hit, he fumbled the ball. If B recovers, they're going to decline the foul and take the ball. But if not, we're going to bring it back to the line of scrimmage, mark off 5 yards, and go from there. So look at another one. This is a lot older one. Now this is a true Fumblerooski, because it does touch the snapper's hands, and it does leave the snapper hands immediately. So he snaps it, he picks it up, and he run with it, almost in the same direction, and he scores a touchdown. So we're gonna go back and look at it again. There's no volume on this one. I screen recorded it. All right, so we're gonna see that he snaps the ball, it touches his hand, and he just let it drops. He picks it up, he runs with it. All right. So next week we're gonna talk about how can a lineman legally get the ball. So when we get next week, we'll be looking at how a lineman can legally get the ball. But again, the ball is snapped, it hits the ground, he pretends like he has it, the guard comes, he picks it up, misdirection, the defense went right by him, and then boom. All right. So after a huddle or shift, all players of A shall come to an absolutely stop and shall remain stationary simultaneously without movement of the hands, feet, head, or body for at least 1 second before the snap. Is that it? Okay. Oh, there we go. 50. Okay. I had to write down when I can find it at. There we go. Play 3.
It is illegal for Team A to have 2 players in motion at the snap. When the quarterback ducks down under center at the same time the wing goes back in motion, it is a foul for an illegal shift. This is a live ball foul.
All right. So you may not notice it when the quarterback dips down under when he dips down under the snapper, that's a shift. So if he's up and he goes like this, that's considered a shift. If he signals someone to go in motion before he goes into his set position, then we have what we call an illegal shift. Now, it's only a foul if the person who went in motion doesn't stop. So even though I may go underneath the snapper, if the guy go in motion, I go, and the quarterback goes down. If he goes to another side and completely stops for 1 second, you have nothing. But if he continues to move, now we have an illegal shift because all the shifts must be completed before the motion. Okay, so you can't have motion until all shifts are done, and you got to be stopped for 1 second. Then anybody can go in motion after that. Okay. So let's talk about illegal motion. Only one A player may be in motion at the snap, and then only in such motion as not toward his opponent goal line. The player in motion shall be at least 5 yards behind his line of scrimmage at the snap. That's option 1. If he starts from any position not clearly behind the line, did not establish himself as a back by stopping for at least 1 full second while no part of his body is breaking the vertical plane through the waistline of his nearest teammate who is on the line of scrimmage. So it's basically saying is if you're on the line of scrimmage and you decide to go in motion, you got to literally go in motion 5 yards behind your line of scrimmage. I know no one does that. However, if you're back, like let's say you in the line of scrimmage, you step back for 1 second and then you go in motion, you don't have to do that. But anytime a player go in motion who's not clearly off the line of scrimmage, he has to be 5 yards behind his own line of scrimmage when he goes in motion.
Unlike encroachment or false start, illegal motion is a live ball foul. Having two players in motion, as seen here, is a foul. Both of these players would have to come to a complete stop for a full second before the snap in order to avoid a foul. If they did, one could once again go in motion before the snap.
Now, in youth football, you'll hear coaches screaming. This is not a dead ball foul, right? It's a live ball foul. So you'll
Would
hear
have to come
coaches
to a
you hear coaches screaming at you because two players are moving at the same time. Like, yeah, there was a mix-up. They're in motion. They're not doing any abrupt movement, so it's not a false start. All right, they just moved. If they would just stop for 1 second and then somebody go, then we back to a legal formation or legal play. So, but you hear coaches yell at you, "Oh, it's two players moving. That's a foul." I mean, technically, yes, when the ball is snapped, but it's not a foul until the ball is snapped. So they can fix it. If they stop, it's no longer a foul. All right, we're almost done. Because both shifts and motions involve movements, officials sometimes confuse the two. All right. If two players are in motion when the ball is snapped, is a foul for illegal motion. If two players go in motion and one stops before the snap, is a foul for illegal shift. And if two players go in motion and both stop before the snap and remain set for at least 1 second, it is legal. All right. After the ready for play, each player of A who participate in the previous down and each substitute for A must have been momentarily between the 9-yard marks before the snap. So there's no such thing as a hideaway player. Even after a timeout or even after a down, all players must come into the numbers, and then they can go back out to their position, and that's just basically stopping all that. All right, so this is it. All right, these are all. So everything we talked about was post-snap infractions or fouls at the snap. Okay, they're simultaneously with the snap. They're live ball fouls. In other words, it doesn't become a foul until the ball is snapped. An act which becomes a foul when the ball is snapped. There are live ball fouls. We just throw the flag. We don't kill the play. Illegal formation, illegal numbering, which is also illegal formation. We don't have an illegal numbering foul. It's called illegal formation. Illegal shift, illegal motion, and a planned loose ball. All these are live ball fouls, which means what? We're going to throw the flag in the air, but we're not going to stop the play. We do not stop the play. We do not blow our whistle. We do not stop the clock. We cover the play to a normal completion. And then when the down ends, we sound our whistle, we give the timeout clock signal, and report the live ball foul to the referee. All right, that is it